Hi, thank you for joining me on my hip journey. Today's topic is how do I get my feet back in the sand? So, what you may not know about me is that I live very near a coastal community, and although I have a pool, I also enjoy visiting the ocean. I enjoy just being there, watching the sunset or watching the sunrise, just put my toes in the sand. So previously it's been really difficult for me to get out on the sand because of crutches. Crutch tips like to sink down in the sand, and it makes it really challenging, if not impossible, to get through the soft part of the sand to get near the water's edge. So that's actually one of the things that inspired me to explore what other options there were. You may or may not have seen the video where I referenced a young lady by the name of Emily, and I saw a video post by her where she was walking along the beach and she was in the ocean, all while wearing a prosthetic leg. And that gave me some hope that maybe one day I'd be able to figure out how to get my toes back in the sand. So if you will, come along with me and see what I've learned about that possibility of getting my toes back in the sand. So after meeting with Dr. Rosbrook, he suggested that I meet with his prosthetists, and they are Harris and Glenn. They work for the hospital for special surgery, and one of them works for a company called Eschen that has a contractor services through the hospital for special surgery. So after meeting with them, I was a little taken back, to say the least. I've mentioned in other videos that an amputation at my level and this particular process of osseous integration is very new. There have been, to date, 4 patients that have had their leg amputated at the level that I'm going to have, that have also had the metal implant. So I would be patient number 5. So their experience in developing a leg for people like myself, I'd be their first patient. So that certainly brings a lot of concern on my part that there'll be many trials, many tribulations. At the same time, the possibility for me to be able to get my toes back in the sand with the properly devised hip, knee, and ankle is very good. It's very good because Glenn and Harris have a lot of experience in general with cutting edge technology and with cutting edge manufacturing or putting together of the components of a prosthetic limb. They have done tremendous work with Dr. Rosbrook in the many cases that they have seen in other areas, whether it be artificial arms, wrists, hands, whether it be knees or ankles. They have been on the forefront of doing just stellar work in that area. So knowing that they have such vast experience with prosthetics in general, and their success, all their successes and the stories they were able to share with me, gives me some piece of comfort. But I can't deny that it certainly is something that I have to consider in considering, do I move forward with amputating my leg? So I don't really know that the meeting with them made me feel any more confident. I want to think it did, but I'm just not sure. They gave me a lot of information about the various types of hips, the various types of knees, various types of ankles, they talked amongst themselves on what they thought would be better in my case. This hip with this knee with this ankle and foot. So they kind of hashed out some ideas in front of me, which was very good because I was able to chime in on some of the biomechanical aspects of the human body that I know of and ask some questions. And I did stumble upon a rather challenging, I think that's the word, part of building a prosthetic limb, whether it's a knee and ankle or just an ankle, that once they build it for you, it's yours. Like, you can't leave there and come back in a week's time and say, this knee isn't working, I need a different one. I mean, you can, but your insurance company's going to pay for that all over again, and they're not going to cover that, more than likely. So I think that's just crazy. You can't try it out more than that day to try to see if it's going to work with you. And maybe that's some of my limited knowledge and understanding about prosthetics. Just how much they can fine-tune each component, each joint, working in coordination with the other one. I will say that I did learn that a lot of prosthetic legs today are electronic, and you can actually control them with settings on a smartphone. So if you're walking up a hill or going down steps, you can adjust the tension in the different joints with your cell phone. I think that's kind of crazy. And it's also so very impressive that prosthetics have come along so far. Not just a simple forward and backward hinge joint like you might find, in your door hinge, but it has the ability to detect uneven surfaces and help you to not stumble and fall. Additionally, there are things called rotators that you can get in as a component of your prosthetic limb, that you can like crisscross your legs, and you can lock and unlock joints. Like if you know you're going to be standing for a period of time and you need to have your knee extended, you can lock it straight. If you're going to be sitting and you just need to have it bent, you can lock it in the bent position. That sounds kind of crazy after having a human leg, and you can do that without locking and unlocking yourself. But in the prosthetic world, that's a big thing. So meeting with Glenn and Harris gave me more insight and more understanding, but it also left me with a lot of questions. And a lot of questions that I'm learning as I walk this journey out. It seems like more questions give me more questions, and maybe not always solidified answers. And that's challenging for me as an individual to ask a question, and asking the question, causes you to have more questions, and there's maybe not a solid answer. In some cases there are, but in many cases there don't seem to be. And so leaving the meeting with the prosthetists enlightened me. It scared me, but it also gave me a hope that I'd be able to walk without the use of crutches, at least for part of the time. So that may seem also like so crazy, like you're going to consider taking your leg off just so you can walk part of the time without crutches. No, that's not all. Pain. The amount of pain that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, not just in my hip, in my knee, in my foot, but in my back, in my shoulders, in my elbows, because I walk on my arms when I use crutches, and we weren't designed to walk on our arms. And so being able to get off crutches alleviates the discomfort that I have in my shoulder area and in my elbows. Of late, I've developed some lateral epicondylitis, and that, for simple terms, is like tennis elbow, and it's a tendonitis that occurs in some wrist tendons that are attached in your elbow, and I'm developing some of that in my elbows, and that's also painful. So any time off crutches would be great. I do remember a couple years back when I was blessed by a gift of a hand cycle. I remember riding that bike down my driveway for the first time in several years, and my crutches were sitting at my garage, and I can remember just weeping. The thought that I was going someplace without my crutches, and that the wind in my hair and the sun on my face, and I didn't depend on crutches. It was just a phenomenal feeling. So the thought that I could get a new leg, although it would be a prosthetic, and I could walk away from my crutches even for a time period, yeah, that's pretty huge. So meeting with Glenn and Harris again, it scared me, but it also provided me with hope that there could be some resolution to the many problems that I face on the day-to-day. Harris, but the prosthetic journey and that part of it will be continued. So until the next time, have a blessed day.